Order. Questions to the Prime Minister. Mr. Peter Bone.
Question number one, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others, and in addition to my duties in the House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Mr. Peter Bone.
Mr. Speaker, during this Parliament, our contributions to the European Union will increase by £17.5 billion. So yesterday's cuts to the defence budget will not go to reduce the deficit, but to subsidise our European partners. This is obscene. What would the Prime Minister like to say to the European Union?
Well, first of all, the point is it was the previous government gave away around £8 billion. £8 billion of rebate and got nothing in return. I am absolutely clear we will not accept any increases in the EU budget in the next 7-year financial perspective. We've called for a cash freeze in the size of the EU budget for 2011, and we're working very hard to make this case across Europe. Just yesterday I spoke to the new Dutch Prime Minister, as he is another ally in trying to make sure that as we make difficult decisions at home, we do not spend extra money on the EU budget.
Ed Miliband.
Mr. Speaker, I want to start by asking the Prime Minister about something the Justice Secretary said. Unfortunately, he's become part of the squeezed middle due to the logjam on the Tory front bench. 3 weeks ago, the Justice Secretary and the former Chancellor said, "I do not rule out the risk of a double-dip recession." On the same day, the Prime Minister said the UK economy was out of the danger zone. Which of them is right?
Well, first of all, let me compliment the Justice Secretary, because, of course, he has something that I'm not sure the Leader of the Opposition has yet acquired, which is bottom. I think if the Leader of the Opposition read out the full quotation from the Lord Chancellor, he'd find that it referred to Western Europe as a whole. That is the point. Perhaps he'd like to do so now. Read out the whole quote.
Ed Miliband.
Let me be very clear about this. The Justice Secretary was saying that I do not rule out the risk of a double-dip recession because of global fear and crisis. And he was talking about the United Kingdom. Now, it's a very simple question to the Prime Minister. Who's right? The Justice Secretary who says, "I do not rule out the risk of a double-dip," or is he saying the Justice Secretary has put his foot in it? Is he saying he's put his hush puppy in it? Is he saying the Justice Secretary was wrong to say there was a risk of double-dip recession in the UK?
It is, of course, the Leader of the Opposition who must ask the questions, and I must answer them. But he's got to, if I might say, ask a complete question, which should include the complete quote. So have another go.
Ed Miliband.
You see,
Order. I want time for backbenchers, especially those on the order paper. Let's make some progress. Ed Miliband.
You see, look, the Prime Minister knows as well as I do there are risks in the global economy, including to the United Kingdom. Now, the Chief Secretary revealed yesterday that 500,000 jobs will be lost as a result of the Chancellor's announcements today. Now, what people who are in fear of losing their jobs will want to know is what the consequences of this spending review will be for them. They will think this spending review will be a failure if it leads to rising unemployment next year. Will the Prime Minister say that he agrees with them that this spending review will be a failure if unemployment were to rise next year? Yes or no?
Well, that is a much better question. I think we're making some progress. The whole point of the government's approach is to take the British economy out of the danger zone, which is where it was left by the last government. Now, this is very important. The choice we were left when we came into power was to accept what the last government had set out, and what was said about that was the Governor of the Bank of England said it wasn't a credible plan, the CBI said it wasn't a credible path, the OECD said it was a weak fiscal position, and the IMF said it wasn't good enough. Now, we had a choice. Should we keep what we were left, or should we take bold action to get Britain out of the danger zone? That's what we've done. That's what today is all about. And it's time he asked something relevant to that.
Well, he began by saying it was a good question. Then he said it was irrelevant. Which is it, Mr. Speaker? Let me give him another. I know he's getting advice from the Shadow Chancellor. He can answer the questions himself. Now, let me try him on another one, because he didn't answer that one. The Energy Secretary, who doesn't seem to be around, the Energy Secretary says, oh, he's there. Excellent. I'm glad he's here. The Energy Secretary says that the government shouldn't be lashed to the mast of the Chancellor's tax and spending numbers were economic circumstances to change. Does the Prime Minister agree? In particular, if the OBR at the end of November was to forecast a rise in unemployment next year, does the Prime Minister think that the tax and spending judgments of the government should change? Yes or no?
Well, first of all, to respond to what he said about me and the Chancellor, I know it is a novel concept, but in this government, the Prime Minister and the Chancellor speak to each other. In terms of unemployment, the independent Office of Budget Responsibility that we've established, that is fully independent, is forecasting that unemployment will fall next year, the year after, and the year after that. It is forecasting that employment... Well, one question at a time, please. Very eager. It also forecasts that employment will rise next year, the year after, and the year after that. That is the independent forecast, and one of the reasons for that is we've taken the economy out of the danger zone. And what is interesting, he asks about the Shadow Energy Secretary, what is interesting about this government is that two parties have come together in the national interest to sort out the economic mess that was left by the other. That's what's happened. And that's why there's real unity in this government in dealing with the mess that we inherited.
Let me give him another chance. Mr. Speaker. Because look, the truth is that the global economic outlook is uncertain, as the former Chancellor admits. The right honourable gentleman doesn't really want to admit it. It could affect the UK. And the question that people will be asking as they watch these exchanges is, if things change, if unemployment were to rise next year, will the government revise its tax and spending plans? It's a simple question. The Prime Minister can just say yes or no.
Where he is absolutely right is we live in a dangerous world economy, and the outlook for the world economy is choppy and difficult. That's what the Justice Secretary was talking about. That's what the Chancellor has been talking about. And the question for the government is this: in an uncertain world economy, are you taking the British economy out of the danger zone? Are you doing the right thing to protect the long-term interests of people's jobs and livelihoods? That's what we're doing. And what he's doing is thoroughly irresponsible. And I think, Mr. Speaker, he probably knows it.
You see, this is very interesting, Mr. Speaker, because he used to say he was a different type of Conservative. But I've given him the chance to say that he will change his plans if unemployment will rise, and he has ducked the chance to do so. And we all remember the catchphrases. If it isn't hurting, it isn't working. Unemployment is a price worth paying. He sounds exactly like that. What we have is a Prime Minister lashed to the mast of the tax and spending plans. Shouldn't he admit it? He's taking the biggest gamble in a generation with growth, with people's jobs and people's livelihoods.
Mr. Speaker, we all remember some catchphrases. No more boom and bust. Remember that one? Prudence with a purpose, that left us with the biggest budget deficit in the G20. We remember that. And who was the economic advisor at the Treasury at the time? Sitting right there.
Order. The Prime Minister must be heard. The Prime Minister.
Let me give him one simple piece of advice. That I learnt sitting there for 5 years. If you haven't got a plan, you can't attack a plan. He hasn't got a plan, so he's got nothing to say.